In this best of episode, we'll be giving you the highlights of Ryan's insights on how to make money right now, even in the pandemic and poor economy. You'll hear deal structures and professional advice that will help you find financial success. I hope you enjoy this special episode. Let me know what you think at RyanOttoX and leave a review.
Now, this episode is about some deal structures that I'm working on right now, and I'm going to walk you through a particular deal structure. It's quite different, it's quite unique. It's something that we've been doing more and more of since the coronavirus, during the pandemic, and before the coronavirus. To be absolutely honest, it's something that I had thought about, it's something that I had considered, but it's not actually something that I had put into practice, not until until the pandemic, until the coronavirus. So I'm just going to walk you through this deal structure that's working for us right now. So, you know, this is exactly what we're doing right now. We've had a lot of success from this, negotiating a lot of deals from this, reaching out to more people from this, expanding the network from this, and breaking into a different industry, which is the hotel industry, which is the boutique guest house industry, which is, very large properties industry, where, any of these buildings that we're working with right now, negotiating and, structuring joint ventures with, they're actually they're actually accommodating up to about 70 people, up to about 70 guests. So compared to our usual apartments or apartment blocks, service accommodation, smaller properties, studios, 1 beds, 2 beds, 3 bed flats, 4 bed houses, 5, 6, all the way up to 8 bedroom houses, which is our usual usual deal structure. What I'm talking about with you guys right now is where we're breaking into much larger properties, much bigger properties. They're worth a lot more money. They're the entire blocks, the entire buildings. They're hotels, they're boutique hotels, they're guest houses, boutique guest houses. I'm talking about large properties that can accommodate up to 70 people. Some deals that we're working on right now, with the owners, or partnering with the owners, or even leasing the buildings, or some of the buildings back from the owners. Now, like I said, this is something that's just come to fruition during the coronavirus. Obviously, my company had to pivot. We had, dozens and dozens and dozens of properties all empty at the exact same time, which is around about, the 23rd of March. I was looking on my phone as it happens for a file, and the 29th of March, by that time, with it, 6 days from the 23rd lockdown, 29th of March, we'd been in the properties, recorded videos in every single property that we had, so we can do video viewings, send them out to people, send them out to guests, send them out to clients, send them out to companies, send them out to anybody who needed accommodation, which, to be totally honest, was a troubling, worrying, difficult, stressful time. I mean, I had to work as probably the hardest I've ever worked in that week, or for that month, to be fair, to make sure that I could plug the leak, while literally I was bleeding cash from everywhere. No bookings, all the bookings cancelled. I'm talking about my short-let portfolio. I'm talking about my service accommodation portfolio. I'm talking about the short stay portfolio, where we have guests from 1 night, 3 nights, 1 week, which is a typical client. Okay, so as the coronavirus happened, the pandemic, the lockdown, absolutely everything on that side of the business was completely empty and, bleeding cash every single day. So obviously we worked hard to get them filled, but this new opportunity came out of that, on the back of that, because what I found was, obviously everybody in service accommodation was struggling, or it came to a complete grinding halt. And on the back of that, we've made a lot of money. We've entered into new deals, new joint ventures, found new people to work with, new partners, new friends, new colleagues, new flats, new houses that we've taken on, some with joint ventures, some we've just, taken over because they were just empty. And my model of direct bookings and, having people book direct, key workers, essential workers, critical workers, construction workers, Southern Water workers, British Gas, Transco engineers, security guards. I mean, it's endless to the clients that we've now been working with, which has been probably 95% of our business all the way up until now, and it's the 31st of May. So those are the only people we've been working with. Now, what that has brought for my business is it's found new opportunities where, as you can imagine, hotels, what have hotels been doing? Nothing. They've been completely closed. Guest houses, what have they been doing? Nothing. They've been completely closed. Bed and breakfasts, they've been completely closed. I mean, we've had literally hotels, guest houses, bed and breakfast, boutique hotels, huge, large properties coming across my desk like every few days. Do you want to buy this? Do you want to lease this? Do you want to fill this? Can you fill this? Can you partner with them? Is there anything you can do? You've got clients, can you put some of them in here, etc. All of these owners, hoteliers, guest house owners, B&B owners have been coming to me from agents and, people and partners that I work with and friends that I work with and colleagues saying, you're filling your properties. We know you're having success with, filling all of the service accommodation because I've been taking their service accommodation properties from them. I've been doing deals with them, getting them at very, very good numbers, very, very low rates. But they're technically worthless during this pandemic unless you can fill them. There is no point even paying £1,000 a month for a flat or a house that used to rent for £3,000 a month if you haven't got a tenant for it, or the tenant you have got isn't paying the rent. So it's absolutely pointless unless you actually know what you're doing, unless you can actually fill it, unless you can actually make money from it right now. Otherwise it's completely pointless. So these aren't assets in their mind, they're actually liabilities. Now, the great thing is I enjoy that. Well, I don't enjoy them struggling. What I mean by that is I enjoy the fact that they see it as a liability, but because of, 20 years of experience and, finding the nuances, finding the angles, thinking differently, thinking outside the box, thinking laterally, we've managed to fill them, keep them filled all the way through the pandemic. I wouldn't say we've made more money now. We've obviously made more money because we've added stock, added properties, added investment opportunities to the portfolio, but we're paying less and they are renting for less. That's the brutal honest. And it's not been easy. It's been very difficult. It's been very stressful, but it's working, or it worked, and it is working and working, which is why we're adding more properties, which is why we're looking for more deals, which is why we're getting referred more and more deals every single week. So we found those angles, we found those nuances, and they're working. So this particular deal structure is hotels. We're having hoteliers, guest house owners, bed and breakfast owners, large commercial property owners. I mean, big holiday homes that can accommodate like 10, 15, 20 people, big guest houses, some hotels that can accommodate 70 people, 70 guests. And these owners have come to me and said, look, I've got this building, I've got this property, I've got zero money coming in, can you help me? So what I've put together, this structure, which really does work right now, is, as you can imagine, in the low season, most hotels, guest houses, they maybe break even during the low season, with the view that in the summer is where they thrive. April, May, June, July, August, all the way through September. Excuse me, and maybe a little spike in December as well. That's what we've always found, okay? So they know that that is their market. They know that that's where they make the most amount of money. And they know that all they need to do is get through the winter, get through the low season, cut the fat, keep the costs down. The occupancy is very, very low. I'm just opening a drink here while I'm driving. Don't worry, it's not alcohol. It's actually Pellegrino, the Italian sparkling drinks, blood orange this one is. So just bear with me 1 second. Ah, that's beautiful. So these owners have come to me saying they was expecting the summer. The summer's been cancelled because of what's happened, the pandemic, the coronavirus. The occupancy is dead. And when it does come back from July the 4th, there's going to be constraints, there's going to be restrictions. They can't open their restaurants, they can't really do breakfast unless they have everyone 2 meters apart. It's a logistical nightmare. It's a massive loss. They've written this season off, basically. So they've come to me and they've said, look, we got through the winter, just about to get started, March, this happens. This season's written off. Now we're facing another even bleaker winter. The winter's going to be even bleaker than last year. So what can we do together? Now, what I'm structuring is different things with different hotels, different guest houses, only because they've all got different needs. Now, what I would prefer is just to lease the entire building, the entire guest house, the entire boutique hotel, the entire massive commercial property. That takes 70 people. I would rather just lease the whole thing because I know my model, I know what's working, I know how to fill them during the low season, and I know exactly what needs to be done, okay? We've been doing it in 6 different cities since 2016, this particular model, and it works. So that's what I would prefer, to lease the entire building. Especially now when they've got zero income coming in, they're more, susceptible to, a mutually beneficial deal. I'm not talking about ripping them off and paying them something that is, unsustainable, which doesn't even cover their bills. That wouldn't work, or that would, run out very fast. I'm talking about a mutually beneficial deal. Numbers have to work for them. Numbers have to work for me, so there's a margin, so I can obviously make money as well, because nobody wants to work through the winter for free, especially even through the summer for free. Nobody wants to work for free. So that's what I would prefer, leasing the entire building. One of them I have on the, working with right now, which had a different hotel chain, a different booking company, a different agency which leased the rooms from them and then filled the rooms and paid them some kind of commission structure. That company has fallen apart. That company has basically gone, to shit. That company is now fucked. Because that company is now fucked, which isn't the hotel, it's a separate company which leases back hotels and fills the rooms. They have not paid their guaranteed rents. They have not paid their lease premiums. They have not kept to their contract. They just don't give a fuck because right now they can't afford it and they're bleeding cash everywhere. Every single one of their hotels in every single part of the world at the exact same time, more or less, give or take a week or so, is closed. No revenue coming in, and they still have rent, still have lease premiums, still have costs going out every single month. So they've run out of money. They've burned cash. They're finished. It's not a good thing that they've finished, but it's brought an opportunity where the people are now coming to me, coming to my company saying, these guys are gone. Can you basically replace them? Can you give me what they were supposed to give me? Or can we do a better deal, a new deal? So what I'm looking at and what I'm doing right now is I'm leasing some rooms from hotels, from guest houses, from B&Bs, from boutique hotels, okay, boutique guest houses. I'm leasing some rooms on 28-day terms. So basically I'm leasing rooms at a fixed price for the whole month. Some they're doing the linen, some my team is doing the linen, okay? We're administering everything in between. Now, obviously, it makes no difference to me or my company if I'm leasing a studio, if I'm leasing a 1-bedroom flat, if I'm leasing a 2-bedroom flat, a 3-bedroom house, an 8-bedroom HMO, or a boutique hotel that takes 70 guests. It makes no difference to me whatever I'm leasing. If it makes money, it makes money. If we know how to fill it, we know how to fill it, okay? So I'm leasing rooms and I'm paying a fixed rate to the hotel or the boutique or the guest house or the B&B for that particular room. Now, the same strategy, the same tactic, the same responsibility as guaranteed rent. If it sits empty, I still pay it. If it's at 100% occupancy, I still pay the set rate. If I'm paying, say, £1,000 a month to them, and I'm getting £1,750 a month, the £750 is my net. That's my profit, gross profit. If I'm paying £500 a month for a room and I'm renting it for £1,000, that £500 on that one room is my profit. Now, of course, we have to fill it. Of course we have to do all the hard work. Of course we've got to keep it filled. Of course we've got to look after the guests. Of course somebody has to do the linen. Somewhere negotiating that they do it. Somewhere getting or paying a higher rate and they do it. Some we pay a lower rate for the room, just like no frills, just the room, and we do it. So it varies, okay? And then we have some joint ventures. Some joint ventures where we're working with a big guest house right now, or a big building right now that has a lot of rooms. It accommodates a lot of people. The building's worth around about 6.5 million. And the deal that we're putting together right now is they live for the weekends. They know that the weekends is where their bread and butter is. So what they're looking to do is not go through another low season, the winter I mean, where they're at best breaking even on the weekdays. I'm talking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. At best, they used to break even. Now they know they're going to be making a loss. So their operational costs are going to cost more than what it would cost. Basically, it will cost more to be open in the weekdays than it would to be closed. This is a position that some hotels are in, some guest houses are in, some B&Bs. This is the reality of where they are now. Because they know their numbers, they know what happened last season, they know they didn't even get the summer, they know what this low season is going to be like. That's where the opportunities are found, because I'm doing deals with these guys, negotiating deals with these guys, where my company will lease Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday checkout. Check-in Monday, checkout Friday. That's 4 nights, 5 days. My company will lease the entire building for those days to fill their voids. Now, as you can imagine what I just said, they would rather close than open, because they know their operational costs, if they opened, are more than what it would cost if they stayed closed. And they're now just relying on building up the weekend business. But my company, because we have Monday to Friday workers, Monday to Friday key workers, Monday to Friday contractors, Monday to Friday emergency workers, critical workers, we have language students, we have, even holiday makers, people on short-term contracts, people that work in the city during the week and go home on the weekends. So that fits perfectly, or my model fits perfectly, or it dovetails into their business, where I can get these hotels, the entire building, for less than a couple of £100 a night. It's unimaginable. Less than a couple of £100 a night for the entire building. And this particular building can accommodate 35 guests. Less than a couple of £100 a night, okay? That's what we're working with right now for Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, checkout Friday. So my model is lease these rooms, or lease the entire building for as long as possible. Do what my company does best, which is keep those rooms filled. Now, we know our risk is mitigated, because we can obviously, do the work ourselves. We can, get my team, housekeepers, etc., manage the bookings. We've already got the infrastructure, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a house, whether it's rooms in a HMO that we've got, and we've got dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of those professional rooms, dozens of students' rooms, etc. So we're just plugging their building in to our existing model. Now, the difference here is, you might be thinking, how can I make money and they don't make money? In the hotel business, as you can imagine, if they even pay £50 for a night, okay, which is good money and reasonable in this particular city during the low season, it would probably cost in the region of about £15 to £20 for linen and cleaning on that room. So that 50 quickly goes down to 30. From that 30, there's other operational costs, there's damage, there's admin, there's everything else. So it might only make, £20, if that, or generate £20 gross. Sorry, after the deductions, not gross. So do they really want to open for £20? When you look at £20, then you look at 10 rooms, that's £200 for the night, okay? Now that's around about what they've offered it to us at, £200, which is more than they would get If they opened, then they've got to run a whole team, they've got to run the bookings, they've got to run the admin, someone's got to check them in, someone's got to check them out, they've got admin costs, they've got booking fees on the booking platforms, which are more or less closed or non-existent, they've got cleaning costs, they've got housekeeping costs, they have linen costs, cleaning, absolutely everything else. So that's how my offer, at around about £200 for a night for the entire building, which has got a kitchen, you know, people can dine downstairs if, you know, that was dying, not die. They can dine downstairs if the government opens that back up. And my model, my strategy is get people in for 2, 3, 4 nights at a time and just completely forget the one-nighters. There's no money in the one-nighters. So as long as, because the cleaning, the linens, the changeovers and the admin, so as long as we can, which I'm confident that we can, and what is already working in my other buildings, as long as I can get people in for 2, 3, 4 nights and block them out every single month, across the course of the month, they come on Mondays, they leave on Fridays. Come on Monday, leave on Thursday. Come on Tuesday, leave on Friday. Come on Monday, leave on Wednesday. As long as I can do that and keep the occupancy up, then there's very good money to be made in leasing these entire hotels. That's during the week, that's even all weekend, 7 days a week. Like I said, some are just leasing rooms to us, 7 days a week. Some are leasing the entire building to us, 7 days a week. Some are leasing the building to us, but only on Mondays to Friday. Check in Monday, check out Friday. So you have different deals with different providers. Some are even offering to just joint venture with us. So just joint venture to fill their rooms, and obviously we just get a fee instead. I don't like that. I would rather just lease the room. They get a certain amount of money, lease as many rooms as we can in the building, if not the whole building, and everything we make on top, we work harder, they get what they're happy with, and we get the difference, okay? Now, that's one particular strategy, guys, that's working right now in the pandemic. We're only in May, and as you can imagine, or you're probably thinking, it's illegal to travel. That's correct. Guests cannot just stay out of their house for one night or overnight at the moment. It is illegal for holidaymakers. Hotels, where the difference is and the angle is, all they're thinking about is holidaymakers. All they're thinking about is guests. All they're thinking about is people traveling, and it's illegal, so they can't even open. So when I come along with my offer that we have key workers, we have contractors, we have builders, we have Southern Water workers, we have security guards, we have, you know, anyone who's a key worker or critical worker that's allowed to work right now, that's in the city on business, working, wherever they are, those are our clients. Those are the holy grail right now, and that's all we've really done, or 95% of what we've done since the 23rd of March. So when I come along with this offer to a hotel that has no guests, they can't have any guests at all until at the earliest, you know, early mid-July, which may be put back, and then there's restrictions, and then people are nervous, and then they don't really want to travel, and then they're at 30% occupancy. So this offer I'm giving them right now is worth a lot more than what they could do on their own, and that's just by amalgamating two markets, which I'm very good at. We take properties out of the AST market, put them into the hotel market. That turns £1,000 of rent in the AST market into £3,000 of revenue in the hotel market. Now that model is upside down, it's not really working. So we're doing something backwards. We're taking hotels out of the hotel market, we're putting them into the corporate letting market, those rooms. Taking a hotel, reversing or switching the strategy that we normally do, and turning it into a corporate letting strategy, okay? Where we don't have guests, we have permitted workers, we have key workers, we have contractors, we have anybody who's allowed to work right now, which is what the hotels aren't thinking about. So we're taking one model and backing it up and reversing it into another model that we have, which works right now, guys. So let me take you through some real problems, some real challenges, which have turned out to be some real opportunities, very lucrative opportunities right now in 2020. I mean, what are we today? Let me have a look. Okay, it's the 3rd of June. So it's Wednesday the 3rd of June. just going to give you some real life, problems, challenges, and opportunities. Literally, I'm working through today. Okay, so let me go back a little bit before I go forward to give you some context for everybody listening. So, if you've been following the podcast, you guys, my loyal subscribers, my, loyal listeners, I really appreciate all of you guys. So you guys will already know the backstory. But for anybody else who's just joined this podcast, just started listening, maybe you haven't subscribed yet, and I hope that you do. So for all of those guys that have just joined, or anybody else who hasn't heard some previous episodes, I spoke about, obviously, the pandemic, COVID-19. It's horrendous, it's terrible, it's, destroying people's lives. People are dying all over the world. People are facing financial ruin. Businesses, companies are just disappearing overnight. And that's a terrible thing in many different aspects. Now, what that's led to is opportunities, okay? Now, what I mean by that is since the 23rd of March, obviously we was hit very bad ourselves, my company. I'm talking about my short letting portfolio. We had many properties, numerous properties, buildings, studios, 1-bed flats, 2-bed flats, 3-bed duplexes, 2-bed apartments, 2-bed houses, 3-bed houses, 4-bed houses, 5-bed houses, 6-bed houses, and 8-bedroom houses, and everything else in between, as you can imagine. So yes, I felt the pain of that. And actually it was, the 23rd of March when the lockdown actually kicked in, I believe. But I remember Friday the 13th of March. Yeah, it was Friday the 13th of March. And I remember where I was actually, and I took a phone call from a friend of mine that we're now working with. He's a developer. He just converted a hotel into lots of separate flats, and my company is now working with him. We've currently got the top 3 floors, the ground floor, and we're just trying to fill in with the other flats in between as and when they come up, so we can obviously take over the entire building, which is our plan, which is our tactic, which is my strategy, which never used to be the entire buildings. It used to be independent flats. And as it happens, a problem that came from that, I'm digressing a little bit here, but a problem that came from that, having one corporate let or an Airbnb or a booking.com in a property, in a block where there's other residential tenants living, it causes massive problems from experience, because as you can imagine, somebody on an AST in the normal climate is going to work in a 9 till 5. They're not really going to work right now, not by their choice, I understand that. And they may want to be in bed by 9:30 at night, okay? Because they're getting up at maybe 6 a.m. in the morning. This is a normal tenant, okay? On an AST in a residential block. Then you have corporate tenants, or you have short-term tenants, or you have holiday makers, etc., which are on a completely different wavelength that you guys will know. Now, what I mean by that is somebody working obviously wants to get to bed early, get up early, fresh, etc. Doesn't really want to have any noise, doesn't really want to be drinking weekdays during the week. Maybe they have a glass of wine, maybe they have a bottle. Do you have a bottle? Do you have a glass? What do you call excessive drinking? I don't really care about that. That's none of my business. Drink as much as you want whenever you want. Little, lots, bottle, glass, or nothing at all. That's none of my business. Whatever makes you happy. So maybe the corporate tenants or the holiday makers or the, the people just staying one night or 1 week, they're on a completely different wavelength, which is obviously they don't really have a curfew. They don't really have to be up at 6 a.m. to go to work. Maybe at 6 a.m. they're just going to bed. Maybe they've got friends over, maybe they're cooking, maybe they're hosting a little Netflix and chill party, maybe they're doing whatever they're doing as if they're on holiday, as if they're on a break, as if they're staying in a hotel. And what normally happens is they're coming and going all hours, okay, coming at whatever time, leaving at any time, friends coming around to see them, people going in and out, maybe going out all night, out of the front door to the front of the building, smoking. It could be anything at all. They're basically on different wavelengths that you will know. So one, the short-term stay or the the corporate guest or the holiday maker or the one-nighter. If you do one-night stays, we try and stay away from them as much as we can, but we do them because they do bring in a lot of money. And that's why we're in business, one of the reasons. So we do one-night stays. Now, it may come down to they don't respect the noise levels, or their boundaries are midnight is fine for a cutoff, etc. There could be a variety of reasons why they're on a different wavelength, making noise, keeping the other person up, which is on an AST, wants to be in bed at 9:30, when downstairs is just getting started, having a party, a few drinks, a few bottles, a few friends around, little dinner party, loud music maybe, or louder than usual, or even just talking. Maybe even just talking on a terrace, outside, on the garden, just talking in the room downstairs, depending on the structure of the building. Now, what tends to happen is the people on the ASTs are pissed, they're fuming, they're upset, they're angry, they can't sleep, it's waking them up, they're banging on the doors, they're calling the office, they're coming to meet the tenants, etc, etc, etc. Maybe even calling the block management company. And if you haven't got the right consent to run your shortlet, then you are fucked. It's that simple. If you haven't got the right consent and you've got some noisy guests or noisy clients and somebody on an AST is not happy, it's keeping them up, they contact the block management company, they write you a few letters, then you've got a problem on your hands with the lease and the leaseholders and the management company, and then it has to stop. So that's what we found probably last year, to be honest. We found this way before last year, but what I mean is last year is probably when we decided to take some action and actually try and go for whole blocks of apartments instead of mixed apartments, individual apartments in the building, because that's exactly what happened to us, exactly what happened to me, exactly what happened to my joint venture partners in another city. They're located in Portsmouth. We had another, was actually a block of apartments we were due to get, and the landlord and landlady changed their mind for whatever reason. I think it was down to money, and it ended up that it started off with us just getting, well, one, okay? And then it was supposed to, accumulate. Anyway, we didn't get the whole block. We got the one. We looked at the one upstairs, about to do the deal with the one upstairs. This is 6 months later, as they were coming available. And then what happened is there was some guest complaints and everything else, and then one thing led to another, and then it jeopardized the rest of the deal because we now couldn't get the rest of the deal, which was a whole building, because people had complained. But if we had got the whole building, nobody really would have complained, because they would have all been on the same wavelength. They would have all been corporate lets. They would have all been short-term stays. They would have all been holiday rentals. We wouldn't have had anyone, not a single person in the building on an AST. Now, that would have meant for us, we would have made a lot more money. We would have had the whole building. We would have had it for a lot longer. The opportunity would have been greater. The returns would have been higher, and so on and so on and so on, as you can imagine. So I digressed a bit earlier. When I started this episode today, I was actually going to tell you another story about some hotel deals that we've done recently, but I've digressed slightly and realized that the opportunity has come, which happened before we got these hotel deals, on the back of having problem guests, having problem people. And this only came down to people on ASTs in the building complaining about our short-term rental guests on a completely different contract and a completely different wavelength. So let me explain a little bit further of how that dovetails, how that relates to the current problem right now. So how that relates to this problem right now is, from those episodes, from those problems last year, it was more of, okay, now we need to look for whole buildings. Now we need to focus on whole buildings, and we need to focus on hotels. Hotels are used to these clients all day long, all night, all week, all month. This is their clients. That's the... Great. That's the... somebody's just overtaken me in the city centre. Now they're stuck at a zebra crossing. They've gone past in this stupid little green Vauxhall Corsa. Maybe the police are listening to this. If you are, they've gone on the wrong side of the road. They've overtaken in a residential area in the city centre on the other side of the road. Their number plate is ST. Let's call them out. Oh my God, they've gone up the road. It's ST10KLJ. ST10KLJ. If you're the police, you want to look up that number plate, some erratic driving right now, 552 Brighton City Centre on West Street. On the cameras by Waitrose, have a look of what they just did. You know, they nearly clipped somebody. They've gone past me on the outside. You know, it's only one lane. They nearly clipped me, and now they've slammed their brakes on and stopped at a zebra crossing just in front. I don't know why they've done that. Anyway, maybe they stole the car. Maybe they're just impatient. Maybe they're just fucking idiots. I don't know. But anyway, so that, I digress slightly. So that made me start to look at hotels, entire buildings, etc., etc. We've managed to acquire some entire buildings in Brighton, in some different cities, in Southampton. There's various deals which we're working on right now, more focused on securing the entire building. Now, how did it get into the hotel side? Now, the hotel side of this, how this dovetails, is because of needing to find more entire buildings which are used to these clients, okay, we started to look around, well, when the pandemic started, okay, when the pandemic started, so the 23rd of March, coming forward now, we went backwards. I'm just bringing you back forwards now, okay? So if anybody is just tuned in right now and hasn't listened to the earlier section, you're probably thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? Something from back then, and now something now, and then something 2 years ago, and then something in 2016, and then something today on, you know, this particular date, and then he goes back to last year, 2019. Now he's talking about the 23rd of March. So maybe if you've just tuned in, you've missed the context of this if you go back and listen to the entire episode. So the lockdown comes. Just before the lockdown, Friday the 13th. I remember it's that day that we had dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of short-term rental properties that were empty. Now, this just meant I was bleeding cash. Every single day they're empty, I'm bleeding cash. Booking.com, the OTAs, they're now closing and cancelling every single reservation. So every single reservation is getting cancelled. A whole calendar, a whole diary, the whole of the summer, hundreds of thousands of pounds of booking is gone. It's gone, okay? It's completely gone. Now, obviously back then, you know, Friday the 13th, I made some decisions, made some plans, put some things into place, had to do things differently, had to adapt the model very, very, very fast, or it's going to be completely empty and I'm going to lose, you know, hundreds of thousands of pounds in voids, in still paying fees, still paying rents, still paying mortgages, still paying lease premiums, you know, still paying people, still paying utilities for empty properties and rents to landlords as well on empty properties. So we had to move fast, we had to move quick. So what I decided to do is go more into focusing on corporate stays, on relocations, on mid-term tenants. Now what I mean by that is away from the holiday makers on the OTAs, away from the one-nighters, two-nighters, etc. on Booking.coms and the Airbnbs and things like that. I haven't used Airbnb since 2016, but I'm just saying on those similar types of platforms. And focus on more longer-term stays and direct bookings. Because we went all in and started to focus on some new marketing, some new messages, some new platforms to find leads, to find bookings, to find guests, to find clients, to find companies, to find contractors, to find key workers, critical workers, and everything else in between that comes under that bracket who is legally allowed to travel, allowed to stay out of their house overnight because, you know, guests just simply can't, and we focused on them as much as possible. Now, obviously, building a business on the back of that, you know, or scaling a business up on the back of that, we were doing a portion of that before, but now the model shifted. We were at 84% occupancy all year round on Booking.com in multiple different cities, and that was, filling most of our properties. Most of them were short stays, holiday makers. And we had a few, maybe 10, 12% or so of corporate guests, of companies, of contractors, because we wasn't really marketing for them. And the reason why we wasn't marketing for them is because we didn't have like a 7-night rate. We had a Monday to Friday rate, and then we had a massively high weekend rate. So as you can imagine, companies just did not want to book our place for a week because they might pay, for argument's sake, $125 in a week. And on the weekend for the same property, it could be as much as £700 for the one night. That's correct, guys. Around $125, $150 in the week. And it could be as much as £700 or $699 on a particular property that I'm thinking about on a Saturday night. So as you can imagine, we wasn't really getting those customers or those clients or those guests or those bookings until the 23rd of March came. So then we went all in and completely flipped the model, reversed the model. So now we're focusing on mainly those guys. Probably 95 or 99% of our bookings now, of our guests, of our clients, of our reservations are all off the platform, off booking.com, off the OTAs, off of Airbnb, off of HomeAway and every other platform there is, because they're all closed or they got restrictions or guests can't travel or it's against the law, and we're having direct bookings from our marketing, which is great, and it's really opened up another side of the business. I'm talking about since the 23rd of March. Now, the opportunity that's come from here is seeing that we already have around about, off the top of my head, just under 60 rooms already. Professional rooms, corporate rooms, hotel rooms, whatever you want to call them. We've already got about 60 of those. So focusing more on corporate stays, those types of guests from the 23rd of March has opened my eyes, and I've seen a new opportunity, which is more and more hotels are struggling. More and more hotels, or probably nearly every hotel. Some hotels which were at 80, 90% occupancy are now running at about 10% or even zero, because 95% of them are closed. They can't accept bookings. They can't have guests. They can't have people in the building, or they won't get the grants. They won't get the government loans, the grants, the cashbacks, the reliefs from the rates and everything else if they're still open. So as you can imagine, 95% approximately hotels are completely closed. Now what we've found is those hoteliers are obviously worried, very concerned, because they, cover their costs through the winter or through the low season. And then when it gets to summer, that's what they live for. That's a holy grail. That's when, they can see as much revenue in, one flipping day that they used to see in 1 week. Okay, it's that simple. From the low season to the high season, that can be the difference. Now, we've experienced it, so we completely know. We're in the business, we know the difference in prices. So now this season has been more or less completely written off. Most hoteliers, they know opening on the 4th of July, Independence Day, is, it's the end of the season, really. You might have all of July and August, usually with bookings in the bank and prices high, and that's your peak, and all the events and everything going on, and, events and musicians and artists and corporate things going on, performers going on, fairs going on, massive events, music events, beach events, everything, okay, as you can imagine. With those completely wiped off out of the calendar, they know that even opening on the 4th of July, they've more or less missed the season. They're saying the season's written off, so they're just happy to, get through, trundle through, as if it's like the low season, because as you can imagine, there's no bookings in the bank. Everyone's closed them. Anyone who had a booking knows they can renegotiate their rate, because they've booked at the old rates a long time ago when it was before the pandemic and it's peak and it's summer. Now, hoteliers are crashing their prices. They tried to increase their prices, okay, during the pandemic for when it opens back up. So did Airbnb people, furnished holiday rentals. So did people on booking.com. They tried to whack their prices up, hoping praying that somebody would just book at that really high rate and that covers them for the whole week. I'm talking a one night stay. They've whacked the price up. They're hoping that somebody books and it covers the previous cost of their whole week. But that's just not happening. That is not happening. So we've seen prices go up and we've seen prices come crashing back down. So what the hotels are doing now is, you can imagine, they're all competing in the same cities for the same group of travelers, which has gone from like up here all the way down to here. So now it's like a race to the bottom. People are talking about staycations in the UK. Yes, I understand, because it's very difficult to travel now, or when it opens back up. However, these people have lost their jobs. These people they're more price sensitive. All of the hotels which are now had their calendars cleared and they're wiped and they're empty, obviously can reduce their prices. So it's more competitive. So there's more. It's basically a renter's market. It's basically a hotel guests market. Like in boom and busts, when it's a bear market, you can put the property on, or the prices are coming down. When it's a bull market, what I mean by that is prices are going up. You can put your property on today, they can sell it for more tomorrow. So you can hold out, you can, have 10 people putting offers in and bids in. That's the difference. So right now, comparing it to the property market in that sense, it really is a bear market, okay? Now, while it's a bear market, prices are going down and down and down and down and down. People can negotiate better deals, better rates, better facilities, upgrades on rooms, and everything else in between that you can imagine. I can go on and on and on and talk about this forever. But what I'm trying to get at is, on the back of the pandemic, I don't wish this on anybody, but what's happened, we're in business, we're entrepreneurs, we're opportunists, and what's happened is more and more hoteliers, more and more guest houses, more and more boutique hotels have approached me, my company, saying, can we work together? Can you lease some rooms? Can you fill some rooms? Can you lease the entire building? Now, I'm happy to do any or all of those three. Lease rooms and give them a guaranteed rent for people in the hotel business that are struggling to fill them, especially from the 4th of July. Do a joint venture with them to help them fill the rooms. Completely happy to do that and work on that basis as well. And then lease the entire building. Completely happy to do that as well. That is our business, okay? So what transpired from this is, I was approached by somebody who has some very large buildings. They actually accommodate 70 guests, okay? Now, it's been a while negotiating these deals, putting the deals together. The numbers are very difficult. It's very complex, the negotiations, working with this particular guy. He's a very sharp, very shrewd entrepreneur. He knows, basically he's similar to me, okay? Because he's similar to me, it's taken a long time to negotiate, because he asked for something here that he needs, and the way for me to give him that, which might be more money he's asking for, is for me to do something else over here to offset. We can give you more money, but we would also need this. So absolutely no problem paying that 10,200 that you're asking for, or the 16,200 that you're asking for over there. We've got no problem doing that, but we would then just need this over here, which might be an initial rent-free period. It might be an extension on the term. It might be some better favourable terms. So we're just balancing things out. He needs to get to that figure. I'm happy to get to that figure. It's more than we wanted to pay, but we would need something over there, which is this thing over here. Or you need to include the cleaning, or you need to include the linens, or you need to include the laundry, or you need to include the restaurant, or something like that. Or the dining room, something like that. Okay? So working together is taking a long time. Now, obviously what I've done, which I always do, maybe it's a bad thing, maybe it's a good thing. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it backfires. Okay? So what I do is, when I found the deal, when you've had the handshake and you've structured, you put it together, you've done the handshake, you've just got to finalize a few little bits and bobs. Okay? So the deal is basically done. We've both decided we want to do the deal. We've both decided we're doing the deal. We've just got to iron out these terms, okay? It's taken a very long time. Now, because of the length of time that is taken, obviously what we've done is use the building, raced ahead, found some guests, found some bookings, found some corporate stays, found some people that want to come and stay for 28 nights to 3 months, 12 weeks. And then we've taken, reservation fees from them, etc., 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 because they're checking in. And then the building wasn't ready. Then the building can't be launched. And then there's a complication with the grants and the loans and everything else from the government. So it's turned out that the buildings we were going to place these first batch of guests into now can't accommodate them, or it's been delayed for about 4 or 5 weeks. Okay. So because that's been delayed by 4 or 5 weeks, which is, my mistake or me being an opportunistic, type of guy, which is what leads to more opportunities, filled them before we've actually been ready to open. Okay, maybe a bit like airlines overselling seats, you might be able to compare it to. So just racing ahead like an entrepreneur to try and fill the voids and get it all ready back to back. You get the keys on a certain day. On that certain day, you get the keys and your money starts coming. You don't want to have, or I don't want to have, a massive void. So I've filled as much as I can, as quick as I can, whether it's 1 guest or 70 guests, ready for that launch day. Now, obviously, because that backfired, it's not ready. We haven't even completely finished ironing out the terms of the deal of the lease. It's now meant that I have somebody checking in today, as it happens, the first one today, and the building isn't ready. Now, the options are call the person up, talk to them, say to them what's happened, and just, accept that loss, accept that failure. But now somebody hasn't got accommodation. Now we've got to give somebody the bad news on the day they're due to check in that they can't actually move into this. This is a hotel suite, by the way. This is an en-suite, luxury, high-end hotel suite. Now they can't move in. Up until yesterday, I still didn't know if this was going ahead or wasn't going ahead. And as an entrepreneur, it's gone all the way to the wire. And now it gets to today. And now we know 100% it won't be ready. They can't check in. So it's either call them with the bad news and say we just can't accommodate you, offer them something else, which will probably be more expensive because these are hotel rooms that we're selling at the moment, en suites, or find them something else. Now, I prefer the finding them something else. So the opportunity came from this, because we can't accommodate this this guest, is that I had to, ask around, ask some other people, make some things happen. I found another hotel, which is currently closed. Found the person who knows who the owners are. It's actually a friend of a friend for this particular hotel. Obviously, they made the introduction. And what came on the back of this is that I was introduced to them. They've got a hotel. It's a very large hotel. They've got lots of rooms, and it turns out that I spoke to them today, had a meeting with them today, and we discussed what they'll be looking for. We discussed how we can work together. We discussed some deals that we can do on some rooms that we can rent, some rooms that we can lease, some whole floors that we can lease in their building, because they're not looking at leasing the whole building out. So we can do some deals on rooms, whether we lease them or we just fill them and do a joint venture. So on the back of massive problems that I'm having right now in my business, massive challenges which are going on right now, there is always opportunities in there. There is always opportunities to be found when you're faced with your biggest and largest problems. When it hits you in the face, it's either, tackle it head on or just completely walk away from it and accept that loss. Now, sometimes you do have to just accept the loss if it can't be fixed. Most things can be fixed or worked out, I believe. There's always a solution, I believe. I stand by that. So yeah, on the back of this, has turned out to be a massive problem, massive challenge, which was at the start, which is the pandemic, which led to us, flipping the script. Instead of being 10, 12% on corporate bookings, and the other 88% on booking.com and everything else and short stays, we've gone the opposite. So now we're all in on corporate stays, on direct bookings, on finding guests and clients and relocations ourselves. And now that's turned to be working very, very well on the back of the pandemic. We could have gone bankrupt easily. I mean, how long can you have, dozens and dozens of properties empty, costing you money? I don't know how long you guys could cope, or how much money you would want to put in to prop that up, because you never actually get that back. And this was without taking on a single grant, without taking on a single loan, without taking a single bounce back loan, without taking, so this is used, or the company itself would have to prop it up with its own bank balance, with its own cash flow, on lots and lots and lots of properties at the same time for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, however long this goes on, okay? So the opportunity came by, switching the model, reversing it, then focusing more on the suites, the relocations, and then finding more hoteliers, and then one introduced you to another one, then that one introduced you to another one, and that one introduced you to another one. And right now I can say there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hotels that we're now friends with. These are the owners of the building I'm talking about, that we're now friends with, we're now working with, we're now providing solutions, with filling their rooms, with finding them bookings, with giving them corporate guests, relocating our guests into their buildings, and so on and so on and so on. There's one particular building we're trying to take over the whole entire building on this one building. And then there's 2 other buildings that we're just finalising some contracts now, which is 2 other buildings that can accommodate 70 guests. So when you're faced with your biggest problem, your biggest challenge is, thinking differently and just going all in and going deep as much as you can, and just tackling it head on and thinking outside the box, and it can be unraveled. I love unraveling these big challenges. I love unraveling these big complex issues that most people just walk away with. And I think that's the difference between being in business and succeeding and thriving in the economy right now, which we are. We actually got the keys to 2 other properties today. That is the difference between the ones who make it and come out the other end stronger, and that's the difference between the others who completely just roll over, take the loss, shut their company down, wind their business down, and all of maybe the depression that comes with it, all of the problems that come with it, all of the heartache, the confidence, the self-esteem, that gets torn away, ripped away from you, because when you're in business, it is your confidence, that business is your baby, the income, the customers, the relationships that you have from it, all of that is, I would say, linked to your, many people's self-esteem, many people's confidence. So when that gets ripped away because of what's happened now in the pandemic, some people, some companies will never, ever bounce back from that. And I just don't want that for any of you guys.
If you're a landlord and you don't know how to increase your rent up to 199% using Booking.com, then you're making a big mistake. Because every £1,000 of rent is now returning £3,000 every single month on Booking.com. And you never have to evict a tenant again. I'm serious. Anyways, I created an ebook. It's called The Rent Arbitrage Machine. So I can show you exactly how you can increase your rent up to 199% on your own rental properties. Just head over to theyrentanyhome.com/free book and just tell me where to send your free copy.
Hey podcasters, so let me share with you right now a quick win, a tactic, a hack you could say. I'm not really a huge fan of the hacks, because I don't want you to think everything is quick, everything is fast, everything is easy, because it's not. It's business, it's entrepreneurship, things take time, you need to have the knowledge, you need to have the experience, etc., etc. But this is, an opportunity right now, you could say, in the market in 2020. We're now in June, and this is working right now, and we're having lots of success with it, okay? Now, if you've heard me mention this before in another episode, or something similar, it's because we're doing more and more and more and more and more of these particular deals right now. As we're coming to the end of the pandemic, well, as
if we could say we're coming to the end, as we're coming to the end of the first lockdown, we could say, there is masses of opportunities out there right now in property where you can make real money. So apologies if you think I'm repeating myself. This is just another week and another few deals that we have done since the last time we spoke about this episode. The last time I spoke about this tactic. Since the last time I spoke about this strategy, which is working right now. So any of my listeners, my audience, people that follow my content, this is working, and I just want you guys to get the motivation, get some inspiration, go out after listening to this episode and make some fucking money from property while you can. Okay, guys, while you can. This really is the low-hanging fruit. Okay, so let's get straight into this. Right, properties on the market to rent right now. If you're thinking of holiday rentals, furnished holiday lets, corporate relocations. If you're renting to companies, renting to contractors, renting to key workers, anybody who you want to rent to right now on a short-term contract. Now, typically, usually before the pandemic, you have to pay the first month's rent. You have to pay the deposit. You have to jump through lots of hoops if you're working with agents and even some landlords to prove you've got a track record. And then you have to do some work to the property. And then you have to provide all of the furniture, because most of the time they're empty. Then you have to provide all the linens, all the styling, and everything else, which could cost several thousands of pounds. That's normally around 5k to get started, okay? It's normally around 5k. Now, the opportunity for you guys right now in 2020, in June, we're doing lots and lots of these deals every single week. We've done 2 on the same day, the other fucking day. Okay, now, you go onto the internet, you go onto Gumtree, you go onto OpenRent, you go anywhere that private landlords are advertising properties to rent. You contact them. The ones you want to contact are a particular type of property, particular type of landlord. Now, they're fully furnished, okay? Which typically means you're looking for properties that were already rented on Airbnb. They were already rented on booking.com. They were already rented on HomeAway and every other OTA, every other booking platform, every other hotel website. These properties they needed to have been on. Why is that? They're fully furnished. They're up and running. They're already set up. They've got the kitchen, they've got the dining table, they've got the sofas, they've got the beds, they've got the linen, they've got the kettles, they've got the toasters. They've got everything in there you need to run them as a short let, and this is where the money is, okay? The landlord or landlady is already happy to run it as a short let because they were already running it as a fucking short let themselves. So what does that mean? Easy, less barriers, less hurdles, a level playing field. It's easier for you to break into this industry, to the market right now. Save the $5,000 on furnishing, dressing, styling, voids and everything else. Forget building, all of that crap. You can forget that because you can go shopping right now for properties on the internet, on Gumtree, on OpenRent and any other private rental platform that there is out there. Contact the landlords, look for the furnished ones, look for the towels on the bed, look for the towels in. You can tell what a holiday rental is, guys. I don't need to go into too much detail or waste any time. Look for furnished holiday rentals. Look for the ones that are empty. The advert will say they're available from something like 1 to 4 months. Contact those landlords, talk to them, tell them, I want to book this property. My company wants to book it. We have lots of clients. We'll book it from you. We'll pay that set figure. We want to book it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. The maximum term that they are offering. And you just need consent to relocate your clients into that property. We're picking up multiple properties every single week like this on this basis. The other day we picked up 2 on the same day. Doing exactly this, contacting those landlords, contacting those agencies, reaching out to them, and what you'll find is anything that's empty, because most of them are, okay, anything that's empty, they're up for doing deals. Let me give you an example. Something that rents for around £2,000 a month in rent with the bills. We picked up the other day for, how much did we get that one for? Just around the corner. We picked that up for $1,550, including all of the bills. It used to be $2,000, the local market rent I'm talking about, not the short letting rent. The local market rent used to be around £2,000 a month, okay? It's a very nice apartment with parking in the city centre. It's on multiple floors. It's got 2 bedrooms, loads of bathrooms. Normally, it's around £2,000 just local market rent. We got it at $1,550, including the bills. The bills have got to be $300. So what does that leave it? We got it at about £1,250. That's £750 less on the local AST market rent. This is a short let that they haven't managed to let the landlord. It's sitting empty. The furniture's worth a fortune. The flat's worth about 600 grand. We picked it up for 1,550 to be able to use it as a short let, guys. As a short let. That flat will generate around about £3,500 a month for us with our clients. Around £3,500. That's one deal. We're paying $1,550. Around $3,500 that will generate right now. Even now, in the end or in the aftermath of the pandemic, we're about to come out of the lockdown. These deals are around, guys. I'm standing in another flat right now. Just a few doors away, we picked up another flat, a 1-bedroom flat. Now, this flat usually rents for, what does that rent for? That's the 1-bed. It's right by the seafront. That would normally rent for about, with the bills, about $1,600. With the bills, about $1,600, okay? It's a 1-bed flat with a garden, very good condition, sleeps 4 people, okay? Rents are around about $1,600, including the bills. We picked this flat up for $1,000, just over $1,000 and a few pence, $1,000, including all of the bills. So we've actually paid probably about $800. It's a 1-bed. It normally rents for about $1,600. That's nearly half the fucking price. Towels on the bed, soaps in the bathroom, teas, coffee, condiments in the kitchen. It's already a short let. They failed. They haven't managed to find guests. They haven't managed to get bookings. They haven't managed to get clients. So we've approached them, done a deal with them, taken that property. That property is already filled. The same as the other one is already filled. These are deals that we've done in the last week, guys. There's 2 that I've just reeled off there to you. That last one makes around, well, we're getting, how much are we getting a night for that one? The 1-bed, just around here. 120. More or less, 110, 120. Okay. Right, we're getting in the region of 110, 120 a night. Of course, we've got fees and other things to come off of that. Let's just call it a flat 100 after the fees. Now, across the course of the month, that's around 3 grand. We're paying 1,000. 1,000 in, 3,008 out. Remember that formula that I keep sharing. These deals, 1,000 in, 3,000 out. Every single month. This is how it works, guys. There's lots of these deals around. This is the deal structure. It's very simple. Find them on the line. Find them on the internet. Private rental advertising sites for these particular properties. Towels on the bed. They were on booking.com. They were on Airbnb, or maybe they still are. You call them, they're empty. They're offering 1 to 4 or 5 month rental periods. These are short lets. You call them, you say you have clients, you want to relocate your clients into that property, and you want to pay a set rent every single month, including the bills, for as long as you can get it for. Whether it sits empty, whether it's full, they get the same rent. And you just need consent to rotate your own guests, your own clients. Use their paperwork, use their booking form, use their short-term rental holiday agreement, use their license. All you need to get is that one sentence to consent that you can rotate your clients. This shit is easy, guys. We've picked up multiple deals in the last week alone. We do this every single week, day in, day out, looking for deals, looking for opportunities, finding the angles, and this is where the angle is right now. I'm just sharing this with you guys, this tactic, this strategy to help anybody listening here make more fucking money, okay? Now, if you want to find more out about this or find more about this particular tactic, how to fill the rooms, how to fill the property, how to, structure everything else that you need to know, all you need to do is go to my website. It's called ryan-otto.com. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast so you get these episodes, these tactics, every single day, Monday to Friday, in your inbox, okay? Delivered to your phone. Make sure you get the free ebook on that website. Scroll down near the bottom. There's 3 sections. One of them is the property crash course. It's 100% free. I go deep and explain more about this, guys. So you can go to my website, ryan-otto.com, to find that. Scroll down. Or you can just type in www.propertycrashcourse.com. Everything is there that you need to help you make more money. And once again, we don't sell shitty courses. There's nothing for sale.
Okay, so in this episode, I just want to talk to you guys about a particular type of deal structure which is generating money right now in my business, and anybody else on here listening to this, my audience, my listeners, anybody can do this. This isn't complicated at all. So let me walk you through this particular deal structure which makes money in my business right now, and any of you guys can do the same, especially now in the current climate. This is perfect for right now. So let me go into this so you guys can see exactly how you can use this, make some money, generate some cash flow, replace your salary, get some cash into your business, maybe even save your business. Maybe it's as serious as this may be the only way you can feed your family right now. So, this particular deal structure. Okay, so there's a property, a landlord, actually a landlady, that came to me, when would this have been? About a year ago, just over a year ago. They had a property for sale, and I went round, had a look at the property. I'm actually just going past the property now. Well, I'm on my way to the property now to drop some materials off, because we've got some builders, some contractors starting tomorrow to get the property ready. Yes, of course, we actually done the deal, and we're starting tomorrow doing the work. So, anyways, around about a year ago, maybe give or take a few months, a seller or a landlord with properties as well for sale approached me and said, I'm thinking of selling my property, can you come round and have a look? I go round to the property to have a look. The property is, to be fair, it's quite unusual. It's a flat. It was converted from a house into a flat or flats. There's a walk down because it's like on a hillside. Fantastic rolling country views out the back, unspoilt views, but it goes up and over and down. So garage on the street level, one flat on the street level, that's like the middle floor. You go up one level, flat at the top, but then when you're on the back one level to the ground, and you go down a level, but it's actually quite far. You walk down the steps on the outside before you get to the front door of this house, which is actually on the side of the flat, so it's like a back door. Anyway, when they bought the property, there was no steps. So as you can imagine, walking down a slope down the side of the building to get to your front door is not great, especially if it's been raining. Even worse if it's winter. So you can imagine, in the winter, it's an absolute nightmare just to get to your front door. So it wasn't that saleable when the property was purchased in the first place, to be fair. Anyway, they purchased a property many years ago, spent quite a lot of work, had a massive set of stairs added, maybe about 40 steps, I would say, off the top of my head. I can't recall. I'll be going back there in about 15 minutes. I'm heading there now, so probably about 40 steps or so, I would say, that you have to go down on the side of the building to get to the front door, which is on the side. Anyway, so they spent some money, put the steps in, then they had the property valued around about a year ago. The agent done the usual crap that the agent does, told the vendor it was worth somewhere in the region of about 285, 300, they said. 285, 300. Anyway, they approached me, my company, for a quick sale, like a quick cash sale, or something in the middle, like a hybrid. We buy things quick in cash. We can also delay completions and pay a little bit more, maybe sit in the middle, add some value and resell the property, or refinance a property. Anyway, So this particular deal, the only way it worked was me offering around about 225. So I said, look, it's been overvalued. The reality is you'll find out in hindsight in 6-9 months time that you haven't sold it at the 300, you haven't sold it at the 285, you won't even get offers anywhere close to that. The reality is it's probably worth about 250, 260, then you got the stamp duty threshold and everything else. So we would buy it off you right now for cash for 225. I think it was 218 and I squeezed it up to 225. Anyway, this is over a year ago, okay, maybe a little bit more. Now, as it happens, the property is now, it didn't sell, as it happens, there's no surprise, we knew it wouldn't sell, so it didn't sell. It went on at something like 290, down to 285, I think it came down to 270, 275, and then it went down to 250. Anyway, when you think about it in hindsight, this happens many times over and over again. We go round, we tell them the truth. We're not trying to pull the wool over their eyes. We're just trying to say, if you're a friend, let me talk to you as a friend. The agents incorrectly valued this at 300, saying start around 285, expect, thereabouts. This is what the agent says. And then I say how long it will take, and then we look at the demand, and then we look at where it is, then we look at the type of buyers, then we look at the current climate, then we look at everything else, and then the stairs, 40-odd stairs, to get to your front door down, which completely limits who's going to buy it. So when you've taken all of that off, there's not many people left. And the Brexit, and the market conditions, and the climate, and everything else, and the time of the year, and the condition of the property, and the fact it's sitting empty, costing money, okay? Anyway, taking all that into consideration, I said you'll probably get about 250 right now at the absolute most from someone that will take however long, 2 months, 6 months to buy it. Maybe they've got something to sell, maybe it'll fall through, maybe they haven't. So when you take agents fees off of that, when you take carrying costs off of that, when you take the legal fees off of that, when you take all of the expenses and maybe some work you've got to do and carrying costs, mortgage payments, property sitting empty, etc., my offer of 225 is more or less what you're going to get anyway, net, without any of the hassle, and this will be done in 28 days. Anyway, they didn't take that offer because when they was told it's worth around 285 to 300, obviously they see pound signs in their eyes, they're seduced by what the agent said, and they believe, in fact, a little bit deluded with the climate. Obviously, our finger is on the pulse. We know what the market's doing. We're in tune with the market, okay? So we know everything that's happening with the market. They just see agents putting them on at this price, telling them these figures, that's what it's worth. Anyway, a year later, so I get a phone call a year later. I go back to actually I didn't even go back to the house. I sent a friend of mine to the house. So we go back to the house a year later, the owner wants to sell it again, and they say, is that offer of 225 still standing? Okay. The reality is it isn't. 225 back then would have been more or less what they would got after they'd taken offers from agents and waited and carrying costs, mortgage payments, legal fees, everything else that comes with it, doing some work to it. They would have probably got there or thereabouts, which was my offer, which was a very, very good offer at the time. So right now, fast forward a year or so in the pandemic, the coronavirus, is my offer of 225 still available? Unfortunately, it isn't. And for me to give you a new offer right now is probably not really worth me doing it and spending the time to recalculate things, because the reality is now you're on the market at 250,000. You're expecting somewhere around 250,000, but the climate has changed again. We're now in a falling market, so there's not even the option for me to have any desire to want to get that property, go in, do some work and flip it, because there's not even enough money in it, even if I offered 190 grand. So when she didn't take 225 a year ago, do I even think she's going to be interested in taking 190 now, 60 grand less, when they've told her it's worth 250? I would say right now it's probably worth about 230, 225, which is a figure I offered. I'm talking about figures that will actually sell the property, not just making up figures of valuations, what it would actually sell at. I think it will be closer to about 225 right now. So even if I went in at 190, which is tight for this to work, very tight, it's just not even really worth, having that money tied up, having the time tied up, because the opportunity cost for what? 30 grand or so, less fees and closing costs and the work and carrying the property and everything else. So it doesn't even work financially in that sense. So what we did is a different deal. I said, you want to sell the property, right? Yes, 100%, not renting it anymore. I think they had a problem with evictions. The last tenant they had to evict, which scarred them. They spent a long time evicting them. It cost them a lot of money, lots of voids, lots of hassle, lots of pain. As you can imagine, it's not a good experience at all. I remember having 2 back-to-back on one particular property, one particular flat, the ground floor flat in a block of flats that I bought a long time ago in Maidstone. And I remember having to evict 2 people, 2 sets of tenants back-to-back. Anyway, evictions are terrible, horrible for everybody. So they had an eviction coming off the back of that, costing them money, heartache and pain. So they don't want to sell to rent the property at all. They want to sell the property. Maybe they need the money, I'm not really sure, but they're selling the property. Anyways, so I said, I'm not really in the market to purchase, because I didn't even want to bother floating the idea of a 175, maybe 190 max offer. So I said, I'll tell you what we can do, we'll do something different. Now, the property used to rent at about $1,100 a month, and that's the local market rent. That's empty as well, by the way. And what we actually agreed is for my company to lease the property on a particular contract which falls outside the Housing Act, so it's not protected from eviction. So my company basically enters into a contract which is a short-term rental contract, okay? It could be a holiday rental agreement, anything but an AST. It could also be a company AST, just let me correct that there, because the company doesn't have protection from eviction. So let's imagine it's on any contract, a license, a company tenancy agreement, a holiday rental agreement, which falls outside the Housing Act. Now what that does is, gives me gives the landlord, landlady much more security and leverage, because who would want to rent their property to somebody, even if it was above the market rent, just to bridge the gap while they're selling it? Because just imagine the worst happened. The property went under offer. Maybe they got the money they asked for, maybe they got more, but the person buying said, great, I need to be in there in 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, even 2 weeks, or even 8 weeks. But then the person in the property is on a tenancy agreement, and then you have to give them 2 months notice. Let's just say they agree to 2 months notice, right? What happens if they decide that they haven't found their onward property, or they can't move out, or they fail the credit checks on their new property, or they lose their job, or they're furloughed? Just imagine if they say, I can't move out on that date for any reason at all. I haven't got the money, or I'm just going to be difficult, or I'm going to turn into a problem tenant, or if I've lost my job and I can't afford it, so now I need to stay here and claim these rights, which are, well, the government have given these rights, so they're protected from eviction for an extra 3 months. The eviction process already takes about 5 to 8 months. Add 3 months on top, you're getting close to a year. Just imagine if you're trying to sell your property and the tenant in there takes you nearly a year to get them out, even 3 months to get them out. You've lost the sale, you've lost the money, you're back to square one, you're in a worse position than you were before. So that's not good. So nobody really in their right mind would want to rent a property to somebody whilst they're trying to sell it, no matter how much they would pay per calendar month on the rent, okay? However, when you structured a deal like this, which I'm about to share with you, not only did we manage to make £750 a month on this particular property, is that right? 1350, 600. 6 and 6 is 12, 1350. Not only did we make, I was correct, £650 a month on this particular property while it's for sale, we actually got it way below the market rent. Not paying more, way below the market rent. Let me explain. So the offer I said to the landlady, is, okay, we don't want to buy the property. We understand the property's empty. Now, what we're going to do is a particular type of deal with you where I will give you a return on this particular property all the way up until 1 week or 2 weeks before you have sold the property. Now, what I mean by that is sold the property is legal exchange of contracts, okay? So not just an offer, not just, yes, I want to buy it, legal exchange of contracts. So it's very simple. We entered into a company management agreement. A company management agreement. If anybody wants a copy of this, all you need to do is leave a review on this podcast, leave a 5-star rating on this podcast, take a picture of it, send it to me, hello@ryan-otto.com, and take a screen print of that review and a 5-star rating. My team will send you a copy of this contract that we use, which is basically the license to print money. Anyway, back to the podcast. Okay, so I entered into a rental agreement which is fixed for the first 3 months, right? Fixed for the first 3 months. And then the landlady has to give notice the second she's exchanged contracts. And the notice period is very short. We agreed a 30-day notice. Anybody else can agree a 1-week notice, a 2-week notice, a 3-week notice, a 4-week notice, a 2-month notice, a 90-day notice, whatever works for you. This worked for the owner, okay? We agreed a 30-day notice. So it's a 3-month guaranteed rental contract using a company management agreement that we use, okay? I just explained how you can get a copy. The notice period is 30 days. The local market rent is $1,100. Now, I have agreed $600 with the landlady. Now, that's because it's not furnished and there's no appliances in there. So my team has to furnish the property and put appliances in the property as well. Now, we've achieved $1,350 from a tenant through the Home Office, okay? Now, this is guaranteed rent. A tenant through the Home Office, they're not a problem tenant, they're not a problematic tenant, they're not trouble at all. It's just a mother and a daughter that needs short-term relocating for whatever reasons that they have, and my company is accommodating them here. Why did the vendor accept about £500 below the market rent? Now, if you can imagine, there's no money coming in on that property at all. Nothing at all. Hasn't been for months, and it won't be for months until the property's sold. The bills on the property must be in the region of $200-$225 a month. The bills, okay? So the bills must be in the region of $200-$225. Now, if you can imagine, $200-$225 a month plus the void, which is rent that you've lost, it's a lot of money that it costs just sitting there empty. I know the mortgage is just over £600 a month, okay? So I've basically offered to pay the mortgage on this property. They have an income on this property, or they're not losing money on this property. At the same time, all the bills are covered. So right now they would be losing, let's say, $600 a month on the mortgage. Let's just say $200 on the bills. That's £800 a month that they're losing on this particular property. Okay, they're losing that £800 a month because that goes out and nothing comes in. And in reality, it will probably take 3, 6, 9 months to sell anyway because of the climate that we are in. So now look at my offer. A guaranteed rental contract for 3 months using a company rental agreement, so there's no protection from the Housing Act. So no evictions. Whenever you need to sell, give us a notice, our tenant vacates. Now, we've offered to pay $600, which is the mortgage. $600 now covers the mortgage, and we cover the bills. Our tenant pays the bills. So we cover the bills, but our tenant pays us the money for the bills. So they're paying us $1,350 a month plus the bills, which is in the region of about $1,550, maybe even $1,600 a month, okay? Now, this property is only costing me £600. You probably think it's unheard of. How can you get it secured for £600 a month? But it's because of these exact things that I've just shared with you. These exact things. This is the leverage, but it's not one person wins and one person loses. This is everybody wins, because I have to furnish the property. I have to have appliances delivered to the property. The property is unlettable as it is at the moment. There's no appliances, no washing machine, no fridge, no freezer. Also, the landlord, the landlady, the vendor, they can't really find a tenant, because the tenant they find would typically want a 6-month AST, which is what she can't offer. So by coming to my company, I'm paying $600 a month to her. That covers her mortgage. I'm paying all of the bills, which I pass on to my tenant. My tenant is moving in 1 week. My team of guys is going in tomorrow to do some work to the property, which just costs us a few £100s. To bring the property up to the standard we need it to be at for the Home Office. Interlinked smoke alarms, fire strips on the kitchen door, a padlock on the loft hatch, a thumb-turn lock on the front door lock, and a couple of other bits, I think. Now, my tenant is paying $1,350. That flat makes around £650 a month every single month until the property's sold, and we're on a notice. We're fixed for the first 3 months, and then the property is on a notice. Now, what do I think's going to happen? Well, first of all, that property will make 6, 12, 18, just under £2,000. Just under £2,000 in 3 months. Would anybody like an extra £2,000, just under £700 a month? Just by structuring deals in this particular way, deals that you'd think couldn't be done, money that you'd be leaving on the table. Excuse me. This is just one way to structure deals. Now, in reality, how long do I think this will go on for? Because of the climate, because of the market, because of the pandemic, because of the coronavirus, because of the instability, because of the state of the economy, because we're in a recession, people are nervous, uncertainty, all of those things mean it's a buyer's market, not a seller's market. Right, you can go into an estate agent right now and you can get 10, 20, 25% off just over the counter, finding motivated sellers that have empty properties, vacant properties, or a chain's broken down, they're trying to buy their dream home, etc., etc. You can get 10, 15, 20, even up to 25% off through an estate agent's window right now. So what does that mean for this particular deal? It's on at $250,000. I offered $225 over a year ago in a much better climate when the house or the flat was supposed to be worth about $285. How low do I think the vendor will go? I probably think she probably wouldn't even go a pound below $240 right now. Probably not even a pound below $240, because already she's looking at it that it was $285 last year. Now it's $250. I can't go down to $240, and I know what she owes on the mortgage as well. Okay, to make it financially viable for her, I know what she owes on the mortgage. How many people do I think are going to walk into an estate agent's window to buy a property right now in this climate, in that particular town or that particular village, with around 40 steps to walk down, in the condition that the property's in the pandemic? If they go in, what will they be offering? Now, I think they'll be offering somewhere in the region of about $225 starting place, around $225, $230. Now, depending on how long it takes to find a buyer, that's how long it takes, or that's how long we've got to rent the property. So it's dovetailed together. We're on a notice. We're in June now. Do I think it's going to sell this year? Very, very, very unlikely. But not at that price anyway. If it comes down considerably, then possibly. So what does that mean for me? Every single month that this property hasn't sold, my contract just rolls and I make £650 a month. That's it. Every single month the property hasn't sold, my contract just continues to roll after the 3 months, and it makes £650 a month every single month. Now, I hope you got some value from this episode. It's about how we're structuring deals right now in the pandemic, in the current climate that we're in. It's just one deal structure this is for you guys. So I hope you got some value from this episode. I would love to hear your thoughts. And as it happens, I am here right now. I'm just pulling up parking right now. This particular deal, this particular property, because there's builders starting tomorrow. So I'm just dropping some things off, having a quick look inside, making sure they've got the right spec, and they're in there tomorrow doing the work, ready for us to move our tenant in. So £650 a month there, guys, on this particular deal structure. Deals that most people would walk past, walk by, can't see the money, leave the money on the table, have no idea how to structure deals like this.
He's a #1 Amazon bestseller. He's an NLP manipulator. He's a property course seller. He's a Lamborghini driving multi-millionaire property guru. Forget that same old boring I am me narcissistic podcast format, because nobody gives a fuck. This podcast is all about you. So I'm taking these few seconds to thank you for subscribing, to thank you for leaving your 5-star reviews, and thank you for sharing this show with all of your friends. My team and I will keep bringing you these episodes and answering all of your burning questions in my Facebook community group called Property Crash Course. If you can just keep telling all of your friends about this show.